Yeah, man! Welcome to the Frickcast and to the Dr. Squatch Limited Rankings. Today, we are re-ranking every brick. Now that we have finished with the soap guides, it's time to address each bar's spot in the tiers. My thoughts have since changed on many of these, some more than others, so I thought it only fair to re-tier them. These will not be the same rankings from the soap guides. In this video, we're going to go from the worst to the best and briefly discuss each. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of any of these bricks, be sure to check out my limited soap guides if you have not already. And if you are interested in seeing the rankings of the OGs, check that out as well. Now while this ranking is subjective, I've tried to be as objective as I can, taking a number of factors into account. Still, this list is, in the end, my opinion, so be sure to let me know what you agree with or disagree with, and let me know your own rankings down in the comments. With that, let's get slamming. The bottom tier, Oh god! Are the only bricks that I don't really like. The rest I feel are at least decent, but these are the worst in my opinion. And even then, they do have some redeeming qualities. Thankfully, there's only a few in this tier. Starting off with the worst limited brick, we have the Cedar Citrus. Now you may be thinking, that's an OG, and it was. But since it's been discontinued, it has to be considered a limited. Now there was a lot wrong with this bar, with probably the worst thing being that the citrus was non-existent. This boy was just straight up cedarwood oil, and personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that smell. Even so, the potency was very weak. The bar contained some really good unique ingredients, including one of my favorites in rosemary oil, but there just wasn't enough to save this brick. It wasn't very good as an OG, and it's not very good as a limited either. There was a reason this bar was the only one to be discontinued, and there's a reason it's last on our list. Coming in next is the Dark Side Scrub, one of many Star Wars bricks we'll talk about today, and this Darth Vader boy is easily the worst for me. The bar is going for a charcoal or burnt theme and scent to it, so you can smell like Anakin after he got dick slapped by Obi-Wan into the lava. But while on paper it sounds cool, and ingredients like chokeberry sound cool, in reality this bar just doesn't work. The scent is almost non-existent. It basically smells like the cardboard box it comes in, and it just doesn't feel all that great to use. The heavy grit is laughably light. In fact, there are 0 grit bars from its own Star Wars collection with more grit. Since the release of the original Star Wars collection and the second Star Wars collection, I've tried this bar multiple times, from what I assume to be multiple batches, so I don't think a bad batch is the issue here. This brick has a lot of people who love it, but I just don't see it. Our last brick in this tier is the Chalky Milk. I was pretty harsh on this boy in the soap guide, but while I've raised it a couple of spots in the rankings, I still don't have much positive stuff to say about it. Yet another weak scent, but this one smells of chocolate. Disgusting chocolate. There's just something nauseating about the way this brick smells. It's not a clean or even appetizing scent. The bar itself isn't all that bad, but the cocoa nibs, which are supposed to give it its medium grit, are few and far between. Still though, this bar has a thick-ass lather to it, one of the better ones on this list, and even though I don't personally like this brick, it's a fun theme and I can't hate on Squatch for trying something like this. For that, it edges out the rest of the tier. We've reached the quite aight tier. Now these bricks are ones that I would say are good, just maybe not great. They're mostly solid bars, but are significantly held back by one or two things. Our first brick is the Only Hope Soap, another Star Wars boy, and another that many seem to like a lot more than I do. Now I love Obi-Wan, but I think he deserves a better bar. The scent is another weak one, but I mostly get notes of thyme and clay. It's not a bad smell, easily the best we've discussed so far, but there's just not much of it. The bar itself feels pretty standard for a Squatch brick, and that's not to say it's bad, it's actually good, but it's also very easy for other bars to surpass it. It feels like the limited version of the Gold Moss, just a brick that is very basic and bare bones. Next, we have another Star Wars brick, this time the Resistance Rinse. The first we'll discuss from the second collection. It's also the first Squatch chick brick. This Ray-themed bar had a lot of potential. Being one of a very few light grit labeled bars, it easily could have made itself stand out from the others, but it did the very opposite. The grit is almost non-existent. 0 would have been more accurate than light, and while the bar features some nice ingredients, it doesn't excel in any particular area. It feels a bit better than the Only Hope, but the scent is probably a bit of a downgrade. It's not quite as weak as those mentioned, it's actually more around medium potency. And it's not a bad scent, but it's very floral and kind of perfumey. I think for lady squatchers, this might be a bar they'd enjoy, but in my opinion, it's just an average brick. Next is the Freedom Fresh. This 4th of July brick is one of my favorite box designs of a limited. Unfortunately, what's inside is a bit disappointing though. Again, we have a weaker scent, although this one is pretty good. It's a refreshing sort of beach scent. The bar features red root tea, which is an interesting and unique ingredient, as red root tea was actually used as a replacement for the imported British tea during the American Revolution. Despite being a solid brick, this boy is supposed to be American, and I think it's fair to say it should be much more bold and proud. Instead, it's very forgettable. Next, we have another Star Wars boy, our last for a while, with the Ruthless Rents. This bar is a significant upgrade over the previous two. The Darth Maul boy is a badass bar, with a very interesting scent. It's spicy, fruity, and exotic, and features nifty ingredients like dragon fruit powder. It also has a nice amount of grit to it, and the bar overall feels solid to use. Its main issue is one that a lot of Squatch bars have, and that is that there are just a frick ton of really good Squatch bricks, that some of them just kind of can't compete. We now have our first non-Star Wars collab, the Spartan Scrub, the Halo Boy. This bar is one that's really grown on me. We finally have a strong scent on this list. So what is it? Well, for many, that's the problem with this bar. The scent, although potent, is metallic, and kind of smells like a high school shop class. They were going for the vibe of weapons and armor, and I can appreciate that. I don't even mind the smell of this bar. It's far from one of my favorites, but it's okay. The bar itself has a nice pumice-based grit to it, and the unique ingredients, such as 7 bark root, make the bar feel alright. It's a solid brick, again, just quickly outclassed. Our 20th ranked bar is another collab. This time, the Spidey Suds. This bar is, I think, another polarizing one. The scent is one of the more complex ones we've discussed. It's mainly a berry scent, but it can also smell like a cheap body wash at times. Sometimes it's pleasant, other times it's not. It has a solid amount of lighter grit to it, and it feels pretty good to use, with spider-themed ingredients like red spiderling and vegan silk extract. It's not a bad bar by any means, but it's easily outshined. Our last, quite aight, is the Crypto Cleanse. This is a bar that is surprisingly good. It's a powerful, mostly banana but somewhat mint scent that I think for the most part works quite well. The bar is refreshing and feels good to use. I don't care much for the crypto NFT theme, but Squatch found relevant ingredients and made a brick that's solid, just not spectacular. We've moved on to the rather nifty tier. Now these are great bars that have very little wrong with them. They aren't so much as outclassed by other bricks, as they are just victims of some truly fantastic bars in the tiers above. We'll start with the Stone IPA. This brick is another collab, this time with Stone Brewing, and features real Stone IPA and hops in it. The menthol is what shines though, giving the bar a nice, chilling sensation. The brick feels great, but it's held back by a weak scent. The smell is one of citrus, hops, and menthol. It kind of reminds me of lemongrass, but it's again pretty weak potency-wise. This brick actually lost its scent almost entirely for me, so I have to go based mostly off memory. Still though, it's a good bar, one I definitely like a re-release of. Next is our first of the legendary Galaxy Bundle, and it's the Moon Rock. One of the coolest bars of soap you'll ever see, this brick is extremely nifty. The scent is one of those that's hard to place. It's floral but also very clean smelling, almost in an artificial way, but I think that's by design. Maybe it's just to me, but it does kind of remind me of like a freshly cleaned spaceship, spotless and pristine white. Unfortunately, it's another one that's a bit too weak. It of course has its moon-related ingredients like moonflower extract, but the main ingredient of note is the pumice, which gives it its grit, and grit, it gives it. This boy is very rough, almost like an actual moon rock, and it's certainly not for everyone. Easily the grittiest on this list, but for heavy grit lovers, this is a great choice. If the scent was just stronger, it'd be higher. Next is another Galaxy Boy, this time the Area 51 brick. Originally I had this in the Moonrock flipped, but while I do think the Moonrock is a much cooler bar, I think the Area 51 is much more practical. Its scent is that of a cactus. It's going for that Nevada desert theme. Speaking of that, I'm not sure if this bar actually has sand in it, because it's a very smooth bar. It's solid all around, and while it's not exactly as badass as the other Galaxy Boys, it holds its own and is just a solid brick. Back to the Star Wars bars, we have the Suds of Darkness. While I really don't care for Kylo Ren, his brick is a really good one. It's got a strong cologne type of scent, but it's not an unnatural smell. The best way I can think to describe it is if you've ever been deep underground, in like a cave or a mine. The bar also has a nice amount of grit to it. It's in that medium-ish range that I really enjoy, and it's another bar that I can't find many faults with, except maybe it having that dumb frick on the box. Time to get spooky with our first Halloween boy, the Werewolf Wash. This is a really cool one and one I had a fun time reviewing. The scent is kind of similar to the Suds of Darkness in that it's what I consider to be a cologne type of smell, but it's a good bit sweeter. It has a nice amount of grit to it again thanks to the forget-me-not seeds, and it feels surprisingly refreshing, as well as makes for an excellent addition to a stacked Halloween lineup. Next is the first of the Batman collection, and that's the Riddler Enigma. Some have this boy above its Batman counterpart. I do not. Although I do like this bar. The scent is perhaps the strongest we've talked about so far, maybe on the entire list, and it's of course the long-awaited apple scent, more specifically green apple. The bar is pretty cool and the bad apple theme fits surprisingly well with the Riddler. It has a small amount of grit in it and it's a very refreshing bar to use. Next is our top rank, evil Star Wars brick, and that's the Sinister Scrub. An interesting bar, one that almost seems more fall-themed than Dark Side of the Force-themed. The scent is very jammy. It's one I like quite a bit and is the strongest of the second collection. It's not too overly fruity or sweet. It's a very pleasant smell that you may not be expecting from an Emperor brick. With the black currant seeds, which of course provide the grit, the bar has a good amount of exfoliation. Overall, it's another great bar. Now we have its counterpart, the legendary lather, the Luke Skywalker boy. Now previously I had this as the top-ranked Star Wars brick, but I still think it's the best from the second collection. It's a strong, grassy scent that is very nice. It has a nice, peaceful, outside vibe to it. It's a gritless brick, instead it's very smooth. It's also one of the coolest looking bars out there, and it's just all around chill. Now we're at the top 10 bars, as well as the something else entirely tier. These are the elite bars, bricks that perfectly capture their themes and make for excellent soaps. At 10, let's finish off the Star Wars bars with the Wisdom Wash. This bar has always been a personal favorite of mine. I don't think I gave it quite the respect it deserved. To me it does surpass the legendary lather and is hands down the best Star Wars brick. There's just something about it that works, and every time I use it I'm even more impressed with it, and it just keeps rising in the rankings. It just feels like a perfectly balanced brick. The scent is a refreshing, citrusy, herbal one. It's one of my favorite scents out there. The bar itself also feels incredible. The lotus leaf carries it and makes it a deeply hydrating one. It has some grit to it as well, although it's listed as 0. In fact, it actually has more grit than the Dark Side Scrub from the same collection. Now let's return to the Galaxy Bundle for the Black Hole. Another really cool themed bar, and another really well made one. The scent is strong and is like a fruity, tea type of smell. The bar features black tea and apricot stone, the latter giving it its grit. The grit does feel nice, but the bar otherwise is very sleek and smooth, so it contrasts well. Visually, it's a nifty looking bar, and overall one I'm quite impressed with. Let's take a journey over to the Emerald Isle and talk about the Irish Cream and Whiskey. A St. Patrick's Day themed bar, this one was just destined for greatness. The scent isn't quite as strong as I would like, but it's a mocha type of smell that gives off the vibe of an Irish coffee. It's slammed with ingredients, including cream, which makes it such a smooth and really moisturizing bar. For people who hate grit, this is a bar that feels really good to use. Another bar that I've risen much higher on is the Snowy Pine Tar, a Christmas-themed brick. This is one of those that could easily pass as an OG, and that's because of its strong, woodsy pine scent. It's going for the smell of a balsam fir, a Christmas tree, and features real balsam fir to add a bit of grit, as well as pine tar. It cleans really deep. I prefer this to the OG pine tar. To me, if you're wanting just a straight-up woods type of scent, this is easily the best. It's like being in the middle of a forest. Our last, something else entirely, is the other Christmas boy, the Frosty Peppermint. A bar that holds a special place in my heart. I love this brick. The scent is straightforward, it's peppermint. The texture of the bar is also kind of chalky, so it really does feel like a peppermint candy or something. What really carries this brick though is the menthol crystals. which make this one of the most unique to use. It has a cooling sensation on your skin, making it a soothing and chill bar. It's not just a fun brick, but a really amazing one. And now we've reached the might be some sort of god tier. These are the top 5 limited bricks in my opinion. These somehow go above and beyond, and show just how creative and talented Squatch can be. Let's start at 5, with the Batman brick. I love this bar, and in terms of collabs, it's my favorite. The scent is a unique leather one, and while that may not sound like the best, it works in this bar and fits the Batman theme. The brick has a nice amount of grit to it, solid unique ingredients, and feels like one of the most badass bars out there. I wish Squatch offered this bar outside of the Batman bundle, because this is a very high quality limited. Now let's finish off the Galaxy bundle with the Mars bar, a powerful scented brick that smells like hot cinnamon candy. Think Red Hots. I think it works with the whole Mars theme. The medium grit is nice, provided by pumice, which is volcanic rock, as the bar continues with the Mars theme. It checks all of the boxes, it's creative, fits its unique theme, has great ingredients, has a pleasant, potent scent, and just feels good to use. This is an awesome bar, and easily the best of the Galaxy bundle in my opinion. Next is another Halloween boy, the Drunken Pumpkin, a true fan favorite amongst Squatchers. This is one of the best limited bricks we'll likely never see again. The scent is a fall one with a fall-spiced bourbon smell. It was actually repurposed for the Wood Barrel Bourbon, which is why we've never seen it re-released. The bar features pumpkin butter and other unique ingredients that make it a nourishing one to use. It's smooth, no grit, and paired with what could be the best Squatch scent, this brick is a real fall treat. Our second highest rated bar is maybe a controversial pick, but it's the Bow Chicka Wow Wow. I love this brick. It was the first limited soap guide I did, and I haven't changed my opinion on this bar. It's the Valentine's Day special, and while Valentine's Day isn't anywhere as nifty as Halloween or many of the other themes on this list, to the Bow Wow's credit, it fits its theme perfectly. The scent is chocolate-covered strawberries. Not sure how they did it, but they did, and it really works. It's a delicious scent that makes you want to bite into the brick. It's a smooth, gritless bar that features red wine and, funny enough, real aphrodisiacs. Squatch had fun with this brick, and it's a great bar to use. I think it's a perfect example of a limited brick done right. And at 1, the top-ranked Dr. Squatch Limited, the Brick of the Dead. The legendary Halloween boy that became an instant favorite. The scent is perhaps the most creative one Squatch has made, as it somehow captures that spooky cemetery vibe. It's a bit earthy, a bit vanilla, but honestly trying to describe it just can't do it justice. You have to try it for yourself. The bar also has a really nice amount of grit to it, featuring ground vanilla vine, purple boneset, and gravel root. It feels great to use and feels like a brick that just emerged from the grave. It's a nifty looking bar and in my opinion, the greatest Squatch Limited. And there you have it, every Dr. Squatch Limited brick ranked. My opinions on many of these have changed throughout the years, and they likely will again, but this is my current order. Now I'd love to hear where you guys would rank these bars. Which are your favorites? Which are your least favorites? Let me know where you agree and disagree with my list. As always, thanks for watching.
Yeah, man!